Welcome back. So the Ryanair has now departed, as well as another plane landing and one going around. So now we can get on our way. So we want to turn the strobe light on, as mentioned previously, and the landing lights, which are on either wing here and here, which must be on until 10,000 feet. So we can release the parking brake and enter the runway, as there is now nothing on the approach path. Nice straight line up, please. Yes. Nice. Relatively straight line up on the runway. Yeah, not too bad. So, parking brake back on, and I will explain the takeoff procedure briefly. So, we will set the EPR up to about 40%, and then we will press this toga click spot here to set the aircraft up to its takeoff power, and then we will turn on the clock and get going. So without further ado, 40% on the EPR, and that's 40% is just to check the engines are stable. You can release the parking brake. Set toga, we can start the clock. So you can see toga is active in the FMA, and LNAV and VNAV are armed, and thrust reference as well. So we want to pass 80 knots. When we pass 80 knots, we want to say 80 knots, just to clarify. So V1, V-rotate, and now we can rotate up into the air very gently to match up with the crosshairs on the flight director. So that's a positive rate of climb. We need to check and gear up, and that is us pulling up nicely into the air. We have passed flaps 5 bug on the indicated airspeed strip here, so we can set flap 5, and we are now at climb thrust, and speed is starting to reduce. Just correct to match a flight director crosshairs. We can enable autopilot now, here on this left hand side, and we will be passing flaps 1 soon, so we can indeed set flaps to 1. Wonderful stuff. So the transition altitude is 6,000 feet, so that is when we flaps up. Change over to standard pressure, which is the pressure that all aircraft above their respective transition altitudes, which are different for different airports, have, so that the indicated altitude on their PFDs are all the same, and so everyone's on the same wavelength when communicating with ATC about flight levels. So our initial climb is 4,000 feet. Looks like it's going to be a little tricky to go around this, so we will actually go straight directly to Buzzard by pressing the left soft key next to Buzzard, bringing it up to the top left soft key here and executing. Now we will be flying directly to Buzzard. The altitude restrictions are gone, so we can now climb up to cruising altitude, which is 40,000 feet. So that might have seemed a lot there, but I was just simplifying our route. We're not on that sim or anything, there's no ATC, so I can do that in this case. And the altitude restrictions that were there, also there's no ATC, so I cancelled them out. And now we can go straight up to 40,000 feet. So left clicking this button here, the altitude button, will set the VNAV speed. So we will now be following our vertical profile, following the VNAV, without any of the altitude constraints, so now we will be climbing up to our cruising altitude straight away. Lovely engine wobbling effects there. So we can now clean up the aircraft. We can turn off the landing gear switch. When we turn off, lights can come off. The flaps are fully up. The engine start switch can come off. CDU can be set to legs on both sides. And we're now just passing through 6,000 feet. So standard atmospheric pressure on the barrow here. And we can now perform the after takeoff checklist. So the engine bleeds are all on. The packs are all normal. Landing gear is up and off, and our flaps are up with no lights, no indications here. So the last thing to do in the climb procedure is once we pass 10,000 feet, the landing lights can come off. Yep, they're still on here. And passenger lights can come off. I usually set them to auto, as long as there's no sufficient turbulence, which there isn't. We have turned off the landing lights. And seatbelt signs are auto. It's given here on the annunciator here, which just announces anything that, any general information in white here and anything in yellow or red is a problem basically. So there is a slight fuel imbalance. We believe there is more fuel in main 1, 3 and 4 than there is in 2. That is due to the APU taking some of the fuel from tank 2. It's not a massive deal here because there's more than enough fuel. And there's not a whole lot to do until the cruise, so once you get up to cruising level, the aircraft will just automatically level out, and that's pretty much all we need to do until now. If you were on VATSIM or any ATC network, potentially you would have, well, you'd almost certainly have more altitude restrictions to adhere to, and you would also potentially have to adjust your heading by pressing the heading select button here, and then it will follow whichever heading's assigned. Now we want to align our heading to our current heading, just in case we needed to ever use a heading select. Or our next heading, which we can see is going to be 286 degrees, or rather 329 degrees to Alderney, because we're just about to pass Buzzard. So we can set heading select to 329 degrees, and that's just ready in case we need it. So I will get back to you when it's time to prepare for our descent.